This is us, a group of people who love Jesus from different places and different backgrounds. We're imperfect, have messed up, and have real struggles. But we are not crushed or destroyed, but loved. We once hurt, were broken, unloved, and lost. But God chose us to be His own. But God made a way for us. But God showed His great love toward us in this. He sent His Son to take the punishment we deserved, paid the price for our sins, and saved us. We are His people, His family, His church. Together we join hands in worship as we praise our Savior and King. Together we kick off the old life and grip the new life in Jesus. We were never meant to do this alone. We were always meant to be His family in Jesus' arms. We will grow together. We will learn together. We will let go together. We will hang on together. We will love together. We will reach the world together. This is us, Elevate Sergeant Bluff. We are better together.
All right. Good morning, church. Man, what an exciting day for all of us to be part of, right? I want you to look around really quick. A year ago, and a couple weeks ago, how many of the people in this room were here? If you were here with us in just the first few weeks, raise your hand. If you were not with us in the first few weeks, but you came in the last 6 months, a month, a couple weeks ago, you came in the last 10 months or so, raise your hand. Raise your hand with, look at that, look around. That is the movement of God. Today is not about just us celebrating this building, like what Ethan said. It's so much more. This is what today is about, praising God, bringing glory to Him for all that He is doing. Here's my verse for us. This is the theme verse for this Sunday. Psalm 34:3, it says this, "Oh, magnify the Lord with me." Let's do this together. "And let us exalt His name together." Jesus is the one that does the work. Jesus is the one that changes hearts. Am I right? Jesus is the one that this is all about. Hey, we got some new chairs, and some of them are more comfy than others because they're breaking in still. But we got new lights. We're adding things like the parking lot, right? But it's so much bigger than all of that. And I want us to have that perspective as we walk through this. In fact, I want to say this. It's even more, the roots of this place, what God was doing is even greater than just a year ago. And it goes back years ago. And so what I want to do is kind of take us on a journey walking back many years ago when God first initiated this ministry in this church here. So I was going to, my father-in-law is Verlin Scott. I was going to interview him and ask him some questions up here, but he's suffering in Florida, which some of you are like, hey, that's nice. I'd love to be there, right? But he couldn't be here, so we actually made a video, and I want you to hear what God was doing. I want you to hear how God was moving. It wasn't about me or Verlin or Chris Versteeg. It's so much deeper and greater and far back than that. And so let's watch this interview with Verlin right now.
Well, it's just so exciting for me to be able to do this with you and to think of back how God worked in such amazing ways. I mean, I was serving a church in Northern California for 7.5 years, kind of living my dream in a ranching community, and the church was doing well, and I get this phone call from Sioux City, Iowa, from pastor asking me if I'd be interested in moving to the Sioux City area to plant a new church. And my immediate thought was, no way. But God really convicted me. And we started praying about it. I got more information, and God ended up calling us. We really felt God's call to come here and step out in faith and plant a new church. we eventually had over 100 people that were praying for our church plant. And the launch team grew very slowly. In fact, at one point, I just said, God, you called us here. What's going on? An answer to prayer was, we started thinking about where could we meet. We needed a more permanent place to meet. And I went to a Bible study at the fire hall here in town. And afterwards, he asked me to go for a ride with him in his car. And he took me by 3 properties. And he said, Verlin, whichever one of those 3 properties you feel would be good for your church, I want to give it to you.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing.
That was a God thing.
Yeah.
I had only met him, I'd known him for 3 hours.
That's amazing.
And
Man.
I had parked in front of this present property about 3 weeks before this, just saying, God, I wonder who owns this land. I think it'd be a great place for a church. And the last property he showed me was this one. And God made it so clear that it wasn't about me.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, yeah, I was excited about the new church, but meeting a guy for 3 hours and he gives us 5 acres,
Yeah, that's amazing.
that's a God thing.
Oh, for sure.
And I just knew all the prayers that people were praying were being answered.
Yeah.
In 2009, it just seemed that, you know, God, you gave us this land. We are in a position where we can step out in faith, but it's going to be a step of faith. And through prayer and talking with each other, we just felt God confirmed to go ahead in faith and build this building. And we did. And it turned out to just be such a blessing. We came to the point where Carol and I just felt that it was time for us to retire. We were attracting people more our age, and we thought it'd be good for a younger pastor and family to come in to try to attract more younger families. And we prayed about it, and at that point I came back on the leadership team. They asked me to come back on it with Joel Voss, and our mission team from our classes, Heartland, said, you know, we think you need to make some big changes here. Maybe even close or do a restart, because you really can't afford to call a full-time pastor. Well, that was kind of a shock to Joel Voss and I, and we started thinking out of the box. And I remember the young man that I had met with in Bible study when I first moved to here in 2000, and his name was Christopher Stake. He had planted a new church, and it was thriving. So Joel and I decided to go talk with him about the possibility of us merging with Elevate Sioux City and then planting and Elevate Sergeant Bluff in our building. And of course, after talking with Pastor Chris, he was pumped.
He gets excited, doesn't he?
He was very excited about the idea and presented it to their leadership team, and they were all for it. We presented it to our home missions team of the Classes Heartland. They were supportive of it and approved it, and it was just a God thing. Definitely prayer. Yes, yes, turning to God in prayer. And that's what's so exciting for Carol and I right now, is we see answers to prayer that have happened in this last year that it's like, wow, God, you're answering the prayers that we've been praying for a long, long time. And you just had a different plan to answer them and a different way of doing it that our vision was unable to see at the time. But we just praise God for answered prayer. and what God is doing right now. Because we meet new people every Sunday. And young families and kids running around everywhere. It's just like, God, you are bringing those people here, and people are coming to Christ, and people are maturing, and I just believe it's just the beginning.
It's just the beginning of what God is doing. Do you believe that? Just like us, God is, he starts, saves us, gets us going in the right direction, but man, that journey is a long journey. And us as a church, we are growing together. That's why our theme is better together. We can't do this alone, just like this church plan. And I love what Verlin was saying, talking about God was the faithful one, following through on his plan. I love too how he said when he was called to come out here, from California, by the way, and he's like, no way. It's very interesting. I feel that. I know what he's talking about. I'm going to share more about that in just a second, but I want to share just a little bit about Chris Versteeg. He's really the kind of middle person in this. God had, starting back 7 years ago when he planted his church in Sioux City, God gave him a passion to plant another church in 5 years. So that's looking far out, right? Especially a new church. You're starting with just a few people, and he's growing his church, but he always had on his heart, because God placed that on his heart, to plant another church in 5 years. Well, when we opened this church, it was exactly 5 years. Isn't that amazing? That is God's faithfulness. That is what God does. Chris had a vision from God, and he followed through with it. Just a couple things about him. His goal was to plant a church in 5 years. I just want to say this too. Chris is such a servant and a giver, and so generous in God's will. And this is what I mean. He sent his best from their church over to here. So he was sending out his best, and there's a handful of you in this room, and I'm not going to say all the names, I can't. But God used Chris to raise people up, to get them pumped about what was going to happen here. God used Verlin to be willing, and Joel and the board and those here at Friendship Church to come together and really lay everything down and say, okay, God, here's where we're at. Blank slate. What do you want to do, God? We want to be faithful in following through with that. And so Chris gave up some of his best people, sent them over here. Many pastors wouldn't give up some of their best people on staff or in their body, right? That's a hard thing to do, to give up some of your favorite people. That was hard for Chris, but I want you to know his devotion to God's plan is so much greater than any other thing, and he followed through with that. It takes vision from the Lord and believing God more than you can see. This was all by faith. The church plant thing, how's it going to go? How's it going to work out? He invested time, love, hours and hours planning, remodeling, while he was still preaching and pastoring his own church, putting forth a ton of effort by faith. The board and him also took a chance with a California guy, which is crazy. And so I want to back up just a little bit with my story as I share this with you. And some of you have heard it. If you do that thing where we meet after church every once in a while and have pizza and talk, I share my story. But I just want to share it with everybody really quick, just so that you can hear, once again, God's faithfulness and how God directs. I want you to take those things, those simple little things that God is speaking to you, seriously. When God is prompting your heart, it's because he wants to use you to do great things for his kingdom. It's not just Verlin, it's not just Chris, it's not just me, it's not just specific people. Individually, God has a fantastic purpose for you, and he speaks to you as he does for me. So I would say now it's going to be like 6 years ago. I was a youth pastor, and I have been a youth pastor for a long time. When I got saved, I turned and went into youth ministry. I just love teenagers, and I just wanted teenagers to know Jesus. That's what it all came around. I never wanted a teenager to go through my youth group not hearing the gospel about Jesus, because I didn't have anybody personally sit me down and say, hey, Josh, do you have a personal relationship with Christ? And so I had this passion that every teenager I bumped into would know Jesus. And so I spent many years doing youth ministry, and I came to this point to where I was loving and passionately enjoying my volunteers more than my teenagers. And so it was really God changing my heart and directing me into this place of more shepherding adults than teenagers. Not that I don't love teenagers anymore. I have one of my own, and I love him dearly. But God was shifting my heart into a new place, and really for me, it was a scary place, and I didn't know what that would look like, because all my life, my dream was to be a youth pastor, and I was living my dream. And so for several years, I prayed and prayed and prayed. God, okay, how am I going to do this? Where am I going to go? And I absolutely love the church I'm at. I don't want to leave this place. And so I talked to the senior pastor, and he's like, we don't really have anything for you on staff, but man, we want to keep you here forever if it works out. We love you, Josh. And so I just prayed. I'm like, God, okay, you're going to have to do big things and open up doors in places that's going to make me feel uncomfortable. God, I believe you are calling me to be a shepherd somewhere doing something with adults. Show me, lead me, direct me. And then God opened the door for us to go to another church, and we were there for 2 years. And part of that church was I was doing youth ministry, but also possibly looking to be a senior pastor. And in that role, God was shaping me and teaching me. And really, it was even though it was a really hard place, some of the hardest things I went through was in that church and that place I was at. God was affirming my heart's desire. You know what I mean? Where God is, he's showing you something, and you feel like you need to go there, but then you don't totally understand or know for sure until you're in that position. Maybe it's a job or career. Maybe you were in college and you had 7 different degrees, right? But then when you finally landed the right job, you're like, this is exactly what I was made for. And I just felt that, and I sensed that, and God was affirming. At the same time, I was going through some hard times. And so I started praying, God, where are you leading me? Because I don't think it's here, but I do believe you're calling me to lead a church somewhere. So I'm praying, and then my father-in-law calls me up, and he's like, hey, Josh, so our church is actually, we're going to kind of transition from where we were, and we're meeting up with this guy named Chris in Sioux City, and what we're going to do is we're going to plant a church here, so kind of restart with who's here at Friendship Church, but we're going to plant a church, and we're going to do all these things. Are you interested? And I'm like, you know what? You can put my name in the bucket. And that was my heart. God still had work to do in my heart. I was looking for a place, within walking distance from the beach probably, or like, I was like looking in my mind. I wasn't thinking, and please, I love the Midwest. I love Iowa. You are the best people in the world here. I'm telling you. But I was looking like, hey, God, what about in Texas? There's an ocean, right? There's an ocean in Florida, and then there was a church in California that was actually interested, and we were talking many times, and he was very interested in bringing me on staff, and then this came up, so I'm like, throw my name in the hat. But what was my heart saying? No way, Jose. This isn't going to happen. But here's what it came down to for me. The whole entire time, I want to be in God's will. I want to be in God's will. Do you want to be in God's will? Are you stepping out into a place and saying, God, whatever your will is, even if it's hard, uncomfortable, and you're going to change directions, and you're going to bring me to a different place, not the place I envision in my mind? Do you want to be in God's will? And that's what it was for me. I was in a hard place, and I was like, God, take me to your place where you want to call me. And I remember going through praying, going back and forth, and then I had a couple conversations with Chris, and then we came out here that summer, and I was able to preach at Elevate and meet the board and talk with them. And I remember shortly after, Chris said, hey, met with the board, and we want to hire you. And I remember telling him, I don't know if I want to go. Honestly, I was like, I don't know what my answer for you is yet. I'm still praying over this. But I want to back up just a second, because all of this was going really fast. And before we left here, we visited for my in-laws' anniversary. Before we went back home, I want to share a couple things with you. God speaks in unusual ways sometimes. And sometimes maybe he's spoken to you in a different way. I haven't had it very many times. I have a handful of things where God has spoken to me in unusual, and I don't mean in a weird way like from God's perspective, but from a human, natural perspective. You're like, that's weird, Josh. And we've probably heard stories, right? Or maybe devotions, or we've watched in movies, or from missionaries, right? We've heard things like this, but I want you to know that God is relentless when he is calling you into his will. And sometimes he has to make it obvious over and over and over again. And that's what it was for me. I wasn't like just from the surface looking at this opportunity that God put in front of me. I'm like, all right, God, yes, let's go. We're moving. Let's march on over to the Midwest. Let's do this. No, I'm stubborn. I'm human. And I was struggling with where God's will was. But before we left here, my wife's sister prayed over us. And God gave her 2 pictures. Sometimes God speaks that way. Sometimes God will speak in dreams. Sometimes God will speak in pictures or scriptures or conversations with each other. And when we're praying, God gave her 2 pictures, a rainbow and a net. And she asked after the prayer, does that mean anything to you? And I'm like, I have no idea. Because I'm like, I don't know how this works. Usually I'm having a one-way conversation with God. I don't always hear from him back, right? But he gave her 2 pictures, and I took that seriously. I took that to heart. I'm like, okay, God, man, if you spoke to her specifically about us and our situation, I believe, God, that you are trying to tell us something. And so I fervently prayed over those things. I asked my one friend from Hawaii, I said, hey, does that mean anything to you? He's like, dude, that means you're supposed to move to Hawaii. Rainbows and nets? He's like, come on. I'm like, you're full of it. I didn't believe him at all. He was just joking with me. And so, but I had this dream, and it wasn't a weird dream. I was having a conversation like I would having a conversation with you. And the person was telling me, hey, Josh, I want to tell you about that rainbow. You know that rainbow? This is what it means. At the end of every storm, there's a rainbow. There's a new beginning. And my covenant to you is I promise to keep you in my will. I promise I'm going to follow through with what I'm calling you to do. And it was like, I was like, oh, okay, cool. I wasn't even like jumping for joy in this dream that I was having. I was just like, wow, you know what? That really makes sense. Why didn't you tell me earlier, right? It was like I was having this conversation. And then I asked him, I said, well, what about the net? Okay, the rainbow thing, that totally makes sense, right? Because I'm going through some hard times and there's already like, you're working already a little bit, and so it's a lot of affirmation, but the net thing just really threw me off. And then this is what he said. I'm going to send you to a place where you are going to, with others around you, pull in a harvest. And it was as clear as day. God was going to send me somewhere with other people that are going to come alongside, just like the disciples. Remember that story of the disciples? That's what came to my mind. And I'm here with the disciples. All of us are just pulling in. We can't even pull in together all that God is calling us to. But we're trying to pull in this harvest together. And I was like, wow. So then I asked this question. Okay, you told me the rainbow. You told me the net. Now where, God? Silence. Have you ever had silence with God before? You're just like begging. We fasted 2 times, prayed for multiple days. God, where do you want me to go? His answer kept saying, trust me. I'm like, God, I trust you. Just give me the coordinates. Where am I going, right? I'm plugging it in my phone, but it's not registering, right? That's what I've felt like over and over and over. Even to the point, I told Chris I was going to give him an answer by this Friday. And so we were like good prayer warriors. We decided to go to the beach for a few days camping. And so we're at the beach, just hanging out in the ocean, hanging out with the family, having a good time. And here, Chris texted me, and he said, Josh, God put this on my heart. He's like, I don't ever have dreams. I don't have weird things like this. But man, God put this on my heart, and I want to share it with you. And this is what he said, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Not mine, not anybody else's. He's like, does that mean anything to you? I'm like, oh my goodness. I feel like God is once again affirming and directing. He's calling me. I know he is. And so I said, anything else? But he didn't give me where, the location again, right? And so this is a few days before I told him I was going to make my final decision. And so Friday comes, Friday morning, and I call up Chris, and I said, Chris, I just don't have a decision yet. I'm still waiting. God has not confirmed where we're supposed to go yet, and we've been wrestling between you and this other church, and I just don't know. Is there anything else that God has put on your heart? And this is what he said. He said, remember, I had this dream about the harvest and stuff, right? He said, you know what, Josh, I want you to know there's a verse that God gave me, and he spoke to me, it was very clear, about the church plant a long time ago. When we're going to do this church plant, this is what he said. And I'm going to read the verses in a second, but this is his summary, the words that he wrote down. He literally gave me a copy of the paper. This is what he wrote down. I will send you to harvest where you did not plant. Others have already done the work. And he said, Josh, I believe Friendship Church has already done so much of the work preparing for a time as this, that we are going to go and we're going to plant this church and build off of what God already has done. The harvest is ripe. The workers are few, but the harvest is plentiful. And that's what he told me. And immediately, everything came together. God is calling me to Iowa. And so I got off the phone and I said, babe, I think we're moving to Iowa. She was excited. I was still taking it in. So I still didn't tell Chris, give him an answer, because I had to process all this, right? I'm like, man, God is just making it so clear. And even talking to him earlier, he's like, Josh, how clear do you want it to be? I think God is calling you here. Here's one more thing. Another weird God story, but just the testimony of how God is. A year before this, almost exactly a year before this, I was in my youth group trying to recruit new youth leaders. It's hard because they get, they love teenagers, and then, I don't know, youth group is hard sometimes. I love it though. But I was recruiting this guy, and I knew him for about a month. And one day after church, he comes up to me and he says, this is a year before, exactly a year before. Hey, Josh, are you guys moving to Iowa? I said, no way. What are you talking about? He's like, man, I just had a dream that you are moving to Iowa. And I was like, what? So I went back to him after all this was going on. I went back to him after talking to Chris and the harvest and all of these things. And I went, can you tell me more about that dream that you had? He said, well, he's like, it was like a dream, but it was kind of like a vision. He's like, I was just walking, and you just came to my mind, and this is what God told me. If you wouldn't have moved here, which was up in the mountains, you never would have left the church you were at. And I'm like, oh man, that's so true. He said, but this place was preparation to move you to Iowa. And that's what God told me. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, right? If he would have told me all of that a year before, I think without everything else, I don't know. I don't know if I would have totally received it. But in that moment, I was like, oh my goodness, this is making perfect sense. When we look back, God's will makes so much sense, right? But God gives us just enough to take that one step forward in his will every day. So that's how God called us out here, and we moved out here, and like 2 weeks later, we had our first service. And this is a testimony of Chris and the launch team and Friendship Church and all their hard work. They were doing construction. They were building the stage. They were painting all over the place. They were prepping for this moment of this preview service that we had in November. And I just remember just being amazed at how they got all this work done and everything that they did in this church prepping for it, and all the people that were coming together to get excited to see what God was going to do. Oh my goodness, it's amazing how God brought all these people together. So we had our first preview service, and we had another preview service, and then we had our first service, like real service, in January. It was incredible. Here's what I want to just look back for a couple minutes and see all that God has done and just walk through it with you. I want you to get a picture. This was not happening a year before, okay? This is a year ago, starting a year ago. Friendship Church was supporting Andrew and Susan, missionaries. They're like care missionaries. They take care and support other missionaries that are struggling or going through hard times. So they were supporting them. In this last year, we continue to support them. We even upped our support to them. We helped out Kampa, who is from India. There was some Christian persecution going on in India, and he helped us bring money over to India. Here's another thing that a lot of you probably don't know. We actually added another missionary to support. So now we are contributing not only to this area, but we're contributing to other parts of the world. And maybe you've heard of him before, but his name is Aaron Luce and their family. Well, I'm going to talk about him more next week so I can more introduce him to you. But I just want you to know, this is something that God has blessed us with. Because you are generous, we're able to do more work for the kingdom and continue to move outward. Serving our community, helping families in need, paying electric bills, helping with food, gift cards, volunteering to bring people to their doctor appointments, helping people move. We had volunteers providing nursing care in homes even. So we have a beautiful lady in our church that does a card ministry, sending people cards, just encouragement cards. We gave Sergeant Bluff a bunch of water bottles. We have a donut ministry through a beautiful couple with us. They give it to the Sergeant Bluff schools. We gave a bunch of supplies to the Sergeant Bluff High School. We had a serve day in October. We worked at Oak Hill and just really kind of beautified their playground area. Did some trick-or-treat things. Thanksgiving boxes. We had a ton of meals that went out over Thanksgiving. Christmas encouragements, providing financial assistance to a couple families that needed an apartment. We donated a financial gift to Her Health, to Helping Hands. It's a part of our community here in Sergeant Bluff. The Gospel Mission in Sioux City. Food for Thought is through actually the school here in Sergeant Bluff. So those are all, that's not even everything. These are just like a quick list of all the things that we've been able to contribute to. Isn't that awesome? Man, we're a new family coming together, but man, we want to go out. We don't want to just keep the joy here. We want to go outwards. With our staff, we added a ministry assistant, a production assistant over the summer, a graphic design ministry assistant, church ministries. We have men's and women's Bible study that we started, men's breakfast. Some of you guys went yesterday. So much fun. We have women's tea. Here's another big one. 24 baptisms. This is why it's significant. It's not about the number. This is why it's significant. 24 people up here testifying, proclaiming to the church what Jesus has done in their life. From young to old. Amazing, right? We were part of that church. Our family was part of that. You being you in Jesus, coming together, seeing lives changed. Wow. And in our church campus, we got a new piano, a new sound equipment, parking lot. We added 50 new spots. We have a cement over here for a dumpster, which you guys are like, I don't care. But I'm thankful for it because, man, we make a lot of trash. Just helping people in our church. Right Now Media, if you don't know about this, we have every month we pay for Right Now Media. It's a small group curriculum. It's a bazillion resources that is for you as a church for free. All of you can hop on there if you want to look up some videos or whatever. Chairs that you're sitting in, new lighting. I'm going to go back to the verse I shared at the beginning. Oh, let's magnify the Lord. And let us exalt his name together. It's because he is amazing. It's not because we're amazing. It's not because we're good at what we do. It's only because of him that he is doing these great things. And I don't want you just to even take my word for it. I'm going to have a couple of couples come up, and they're going to share their testimony of what God has done through this church. So if you guys would come on up, and they're just going to share really quick a couple things about how God is working in their lives and what they've seen God do through this church. Grab the microphone over there. There we go. So this is Stephen and Ivy, and you probably may not know, but they do our social media and our website, and they're just such a blessing. They're amazing people. But I just wanted them to share. So go ahead and just share a couple things.
All right, so my name's Steven, like Josh said. This is my wife, Ivy. We're the couple, I guess, that are sharing that. We're a part of Friendship Community. So I went to Friendship probably since I was 10 or 11 or so. So I went through VBS, did youth group. We did a young adults thing while I was in college. And then Ivy started coming in high school.
So I started going to Friendship about in high school, kind of on and off, and then more in college. So like Josh said, we volunteer here at Elevate. But when we were at Friendship, like they said, it was a small congregation, but we loved coming here. We got married in this building up on this stage here. So when we heard that Friendship was going to close or merge with Elevate, it was sad, but we were excited. It was kind of a bittersweet thing. We were just excited for a positive change, to meet new people, and we had our son at the time, so get him involved with kids ministry and meet some kids his age and stuff. So that was exciting. And we were part of the launch team, so we were able to see everything kind of come through and see how the church has grown and see all the people that come in every Sunday is really awesome. And we have met some awesome people, and our son, loves every night we go to bed on Saturdays, like, we're going to go to church, and then he names off all his friends, and he's so excited to come. So it's just been really cool to see the building grow. Stephen and I got baptized the last baptism round, which was really awesome to be able to do that with Elevate too. So, yeah.
And then I just wanted to share just a short story. So throughout the launch team meeting up and everything, we just really kind of had doubts, I would say, where we're like, we don't know how this is going to work. We're just really uncertain on how everything would go. I remember even we were over at Ethan and Taylor's. They had us over for dinner, and we just asked them, like, how do you get volunteers? And it just seems like it's going to be a lot, and, how are we going to keep up with it? Again, just kind of a lot of doubt on our end. And I remember during the launch meetings and everything, Chris Versteeg, as Josh said, he brought up to us, like, we're preparing the harvest, we're preparing the harvest. He brought up how he was talking to Josh about that. And the day before our first soft launch, or the day of, it's like 1, 2 in the morning. We were up late, like, not very smart parents, but we're up all the time. So we were up and we're just kind of talking about it, and we're like, oh, it's tomorrow. I hope people show up. Like, we're nervous. There's a lot of chairs out there. We just would love to see them filled. So I just pulled up the Bible app, and the verse that came up was Galatians 6:9, which is, let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And obviously the Bible app wasn't on Elevate's schedule. I just remember looking at Ivy, and we just kind of started crying a little bit. Like, he's pretty much telling us, like, shut up and go to bed. Like, I got it tomorrow. But I remember we screenshotted it, and we sent it to the launch team at like 1 or 2 in the morning. I don't know if everyone remembers that or not, but we're like, let's just do it. It'll be encouraging. They'll see it in the morning if they're not up. But just kind of like Verlin said, it was a God thing. Why would that verse pop up on our Bible app? Why would the church friendship end, and then just something new, something beautiful be recreated because of it? We're just super thankful, and I'm glad that we can be a part of it. But again, as Josh said, it's all about God. It doesn't matter what the name of this building is. We're doing the same thing. We're coming together as a family and loving each other, and most importantly, growing in our faith. So, just, again, super thankful that we can be a part of it, and thanks for letting us share.
Dude, for sure. Love you guys so much. Thank you. And then we have Tyler and Bree that are going to share with us too. So they weren't part of our launch team, but they've just been such a huge part of our church. And Tyler is not a lawn guy, but he's mowed our lawn more than I think anybody else in the last year. They're just such servants and just a beautiful couple. So, yeah.
Well, we're Tyler and Bree Nelson. So I guess where to begin. I grew up going to a church in South Sioux, small church, very involved. My mom was a Sunday school teacher, and I always knew that I wanted to marry a godly man someday and raise our kids in a church. Fast forward, I meet my godly man. We go to church. I would say through the 8 years of being married, where we were going to church, we weren't super connected to God. It was just up and down. Never really felt that we wanted to get involved in the church that we were going to. Just something kind of felt missing. And so we we took, I think, my niece to the trick-or-treat thing, and we got an Elevate brochure, and my brother knew a guy that was attending here. And then we're like, that's cool. And so then, I don't know how many weeks went by, we got a little thing on our door. And Ty grew up in a small town. He's like, we live here in Sergeant Bluff now. We need to, support the community. Let's check out this church. So we checked it out. He was like really pumped. I was like, eh. But really what I think it was is I think it was the devil trying to keep me where I was. And he knew that my heart needed to grow, and he knew that this place would do it. So it took my godly man to be like, we're going there. So ever since then, my heart has grown for God. I feel that sense of community that I was looking for, kind of like Ivy was saying with the kids, a church that I can raise my kids in, a church that can grow my daughter's heart for Jesus. And I would just say the love and the compassion and community I feel here. I can't say I really felt that where I was before. We're here. I feel it when I come in here. I feel the Holy Spirit. This place makes me want to be closer to God. So.
Love that.
I'm Tyler, and I would echo a lot of that. I would say also through the stories that you were telling about, Josh, you are within walking distance of a beach. It's a muddy river. It's not so you just need to be specific.
Love it. Love it. Thanks, Tyler.
Yeah.
Such a godly man.
So yeah, the first time that we came here, I immediately felt a connection and was pretty excited about this, and just wanted to plug into this church, wanted to plug into the community. I look out across here and see a bunch of beautiful, imperfect people like we are. We're not perfect, and we felt from the day that we started coming here, we've just felt love and grace for just who we are. And so one thing that I challenged myself on when we started coming here was, like you were saying too, don't be stubborn. Just plug in, say yes to some things. And so I started mowing. I started doing some of the trimming. We started coming to like men's groups, caught a few Saturday morning breakfasts. We plugged into a small group. Our small group has been amazing. Just like many people here, we have life going on. And our small group has been an amazing source of strength for us. And so we appreciate all of them. I know a lot of them are in the room today. But we just love it. We love that God has brought all the people that he has to this place and nudged us in the right direction to come check it out. And we're excited to see this church continue to grow and impact this community.
Amen. We love you guys so much. We love you guys so much. Just like Stephen and Ivy, you guys make our church better. You guys make our church better so much, just for you being you. And the same goes to you, all of you. You make our church better. God has brought the exact gifting, the exact personality, the exact needs that we have in making church happen through you. It's not just me. It's not just Stephen and Ivy. It's not just Tyler and Bree. It's not just our board. It's all of you that are here. And I know a lot of you are doing stuff, but we have more that you can do if you want to help with production or children's. Just putting those plugs out there really quick. We have some incredible opportunities for you. I want to close with this. One verse. I had all these verses I wanted to share, but man, God is so good, and just hearing from other people. Here's the verse I want you to hear. Jesus talking to his disciples. He wanted them to get what it means to be in God's will. To eat the food of God's will, really, is what he's saying in this passage if you look at John 4. This is what he's saying. Here's your mission. In verse 35, 4 verse 35, it says this: I tell you, open your eyes and look at the fields. They are ripe for the harvest. Church, people, the harvest is out there. The harvest is plentiful. It's not coming, it is now. There's been some that have sown seeds, and people are constantly sowing seeds, right? But God's harvest doesn't always work. You sow a seed, and then 4 months later, you get a harvest. Sometimes it's in that moment. Sometimes it's 25 years. But let's be a church that sows seeds and seeks the harvest. That means being kind. That means inviting people to church, going across the street to your neighbor and meeting them. That means having a conversation with a stranger in the parking lot at Walmart. That means those little things. The harvest is plentiful. Let's open our eyes, elevate, and seek the harvest. Let's be farmers, not for the corn, for the people. Let's be fishermen, not for the fish, but for the people. Let's be a church that seeks the harvest. And I'm going to close with this. I'm going to invite up our elders, actually. So the board is going to come up because we have an announcement to close this service off with. And I've been tucking it inside and away for a little while. And I want to share this with you. And then we're going to go into a final song. So one thing with that parking lot is we challenge you, whatever you raise on top of what we're looking for with the parking lot. We were raising money for the parking lot. Whatever you raise above that, we were going to put toward the mortgage. And so we raised a significant amount of money because you were generous, and so many of you just donated and supported our mission. And so we were able to pay the mortgage down a little bit in October. And then we just kept paying it, and someone so generous said, hey, what's left on the mortgage? I just want to pay it off. For 15 years, we've been paying on that mortgage. I want you to get this picture. Friendship Church was faithful to pay that mortgage. But we were able together to pay that final payment with you being so generous. That's amazing. That's a God thing. That's what God does when he's moving, right? And so this is what we're going to do. We're going to celebrate together. All right, guys, you ready? Yeah. All right. Woo, let's go. Uh-oh. Mine's not working. Oh, well.